I, Vampire #3, written by Joshua Hale Fialkov, art by Andrea Sorrentino. We last left off with Mary putting her plan into motion and going after Andrew. And this issue picks up, I guess, a while after, decently after. We get narration by someone who actually isn't Andrew. The reveal will happen later. But we just see that across 4 different cities, Boston, Star City, Coast City, and LA, there has just been brutal attacks. And the narration says that for a long time, people were victims of this war that they never knew about. But over the last 5 years, there has been a peace. But the peace was always temporary, and now it's finally broken. And we see 18 panels of news anchors of just headlines saying terrorism, people missing, the downtown Boston's deserted, the Justice League is investigating, all this crazy stuff. The narrator reveals himself to be Professor John Troughton, and he is a close friend, actually, of Andrew Bennett. And this is just his perspective on things, I guess you could say. Andrew stumbles up to his house, and he is bloodied, he is beaten, he is barely... I don't want to say alive because he's a vampire, but you get the point of it. And he needs John to patch him back up. So as he's resting, John goes through and he says, I've known him for nearly 25 years. The first time I met him was back in San Francisco in 1979. Vampires were like bringing these people to it looks like a hippie sort of area. And he promises them like the vampires promise them sex and drugs, but in reality they're just feasted upon. John gets there and he's trying to take out the vampires. He's wearing like cloves of garlic and has a cross. And of course it doesn't work because that's not what the vampires really are. But as the vampire's about to feast on him, Andrew shows up and says, okay, well, that's enough. And he takes out 2 samurai swords and just slashes them to bits. And John now owes him his life, but is just in awe of Andrew and how incredible he is. And he lets one of the vampires get away, I guess, to share what happened. So cutting back to now, Andrew wakes up and he's like, all right, we got to go. And John's like, what do you mean we got to go? And she's like, we have to go stop the vampires. There's only a few hundred tops, and the rest of them won't get turned until the morning. We should be able to deal with that. And John points out, there's a lot more than you think. They attacked 4 different cities. And Andrew realizes that Mary played them, was making an army underneath their noses. He was supposed to have some sort of psychic link to her, but apparently that didn't work out. But he felt their essence during the fight, and he has enough of it to track them. So he's ready to go on the killing spree now. And John is, of course, all in because he went to that place in order to kill vampires back 25 years ago. And I don't know if they said it yet, but Andrew has this sway about him in order to convince people to join him and whatever, but he also just has this aura of being good, something that the other vampires just don't give off. He is a good man underneath it all. So they go down the street, they find the place where supposedly vampires were hiding out. It's an abandoned subway station, and as they arrive, an arrow is shot out of nowhere at Andrew. I don't want to say a little girl, but a young woman jumps out, and she has a crossbow on her arm, and she's firing off shots trying to kill Andrew. Has a holy water Molotov, I guess you would call it, smash it against his face and be like, all right, I got you, vampire. I'm going to take you down dead to rights. And John gets in the way and is like, okay, you need to calm down. This isn't what it seems like. And as Andrew manages to collect himself while this girl is screaming at him, saying how he's a vampire and apparently also a werewolf or something, Andrew gets that sway going on. He's like, look at me. Feel with your heart. You know I'm different. And she's like, okay, yeah, you're different. And apparently this girl also tracked the vampires to this place, but as soon as she arrived, they bolted. So she was just going to wait until some of them came back. And John's impressed that a girl her age managed to do all this, because she definitely is a lot less a lot more trained than he was at a lot younger age. So Andrew sticks up for John for a second there, just to throw out how he says how John managed to kill 12 vampires without a stake or an axe, and John's like, I just made like a holy water sprinkling system, that's all. So Andrew's like, all right, so they all are going somewhere. They're going back down to the South Station. Where could they be heading? And we get the name of the girl. Her name is Tig. So that's for the future. Tig hands over the flashlight, and they see a message written on the wall by Mary. It is a picture of the Batman bat, and it says, see you there, lover. So they are now, all three of them, because Tig is in as well, are on their way to Gotham, and they're going to take out whatever vampires are collecting there. But John, in his narration, says how he did a lot of research in all the years that he's been studying vampires and has been doing this. And there's some stuff he hasn't even let Andrew know. For instance, once a vampire hits like 300 years old, pretty much nothing can kill them. They're more or less immortal. The only way for them to die is for them to willingly choose to die, or to have the person who turned them into a vampire willingly die themselves. So this entire thing could be stopped if Andrew willingly took his own life. Therefore, Mary could be killed himself. And John knows this, and he says, I don't want to do that, but if it comes down to it, I absolutely will. And that's how the issue ends. I love this book so much. I can't believe I slept on this. I looked at it and I was like, I vampire, I don't know. Dear God, this is so good. I don't know what I have been rating it, but this is straight up like a 9. I'm just giving it a 9. It's fantastic. This issue just by itself could be completely standalone. You just have to know. In fact, you wouldn't even have to know the previous 2 issues, because it opens up with the fact that people have been slaughtered. You would just get that. This is just a great overall issue. I'm giving this one a 9. And the art, I mean, I can't even begin to say how perfect the art fits every inch of this story. It is so good. It is so good. It has no right to be this good, but it is. I Vampire 3, straight 9.